There you are. I'm here today to teach you the basics of making a movie review about the film Mac and Me 1988. I'm also here today to convince you that Mac and Me is a cinematic masterpiece, despite the fact that the sole purpose of its creation was to sell you things. The value of Mac and Me lies not so much in the quality of its graces, but in the spectacle of the thing itself. The famed halls of cinema are nothing without this film to stand among its ranks. For as someone once said, never before was there anything like it, and everything after shall have to compete with it. Don't drink the cola. You've been Mac-pilled. There are a couple easy steps in making a movie review. Today we're reviewing Mac and Me. The steps are interchangeable, so just go with what feels right. Step 1 is to explain the plot. In Mac and Me, a family of coke-drinking aliens arrive on Earth only to be separated and searched out by the US government. By chance, the lost alien Mac befriends Eric, a kid with spina bifida whose family has just moved across the country. Eric and his new friends use their McDonald's connections to help lead the lost alien, against all odds, back into the arms of its family and ultimately into the hands of capitalism. Step 2 of reviewing Mac and Me is kind of an extension of Step 1. You're going to want to take inventory of the most ridiculous highlights of the film to demonstrate how the plot never ceases to escalate outrageously up until the very last second before the credits roll. The scene where Eric and his wheelchair roll off a cliff and Max swims them to safety like a goat in the water.
Goat in the water.
The extended dance scene in McDonald's. The Men in Black chase scene, the explosion death scene at the grocery store, the resurrecting power of the united alien family, and the forced delivery behind every corporate brand. The promise of a sequel. The third step is to lose yourself with monk-like abandon in the throes of Mac and Me, and then throw everything you got back at it. Whether you make jokes about it, whether you like it or hate it, tear it apart until only the film strip remains. I'd like you to imagine for a moment that you are a super-dimensional fly buzzing around the popcorn of a person sitting down in a crowded movie theater about to watch Mac and Me in 1988. You're swatted off the butter, you fly up, but you never stop ascending. You see the people in the theater from above, and then the theater itself. But you keep ascending until you are outside of space and time looking down at Mac and Me. You see every person who ever saw Mac and Me, every laugh, every sigh, and they all beg the same question. Why? Why does this exist? Why was this allowed to exist? Typically, there are two answers. The first is that the film was allowed to exist by mistake, by accident. It offers nothing for us to learn. Mac and Me is bad and has no value because it is bad. The second conclusion is that, for all the same reasons that make Mac and Me bad, it's a good movie. Its existence is a happy accident. Today I offer you a third conclusion, that Mac and Me is both objectively bad and exceptionally good. The value of Mac and Me depends on the dichotomy of its reception. A quick dip into Wikipedia tells us the film's $16 million production value couldn't afford a better script, or the ability to see outside time and space, and the box office couldn't afford to pay for the sequel. The fact that $16 million, an amount of money the mass majority of the world will never hold, was allocated and billed to bring Mac and Me to life without ever a second thought, speaks to the film's failure like a mother telling their wheelchair-bound child, "Well, I told you what would happen if you played out on the cliff." You have to wonder how nobody saw the box office flop coming. At worst, Mac and Me is a severe misunderstanding of target audiences. At best, it is an extremely poorly executed capitalist propaganda film. In a way, Mac and Me as a concept mirrors the popular culture of media today, where ad revenue is the honeypot, and sequels do happen, like it or not. Mac and Me never had a sequel, but the possibility of one happening is never out of the question. Netflix and the like would release a 9-episode series. Dr. Bezos of Amazon fame would sign, seal, and deliver 16 million Bezos bucks to get Mac and Me 2021 produced and plastered on every billboard and laptop screen from here to Hollywood. Chump change to reap the successes of what is arguably one of the worst movies ever made. And whether or not the intellectual rights of Mac and Me are ever bought and upcycled, the people who gained the most Bezos bucks from its initial run continue to gain imaginary worth from its existence. Coca-Cola and McDonald's still frame the worldview of a hard-working, God-fearing, back-the-blue-blooded, honest American. A pack of Skittles in the bag of every alien who marches down to the courthouse and is quickly and rightly granted citizenship, and a brand new pink Cadillac to ride off into the sunset of another day and another dream achieved by perseverance in the American way. The delusional plot elements of Mac and Me are what is so confounding about the movie. As far as realism goes, even for family sci-fi movies, Mac and Me begs for allowances. For example, during the climax, hordes of police show up, and a shootout occurs between the cops and Mac's alien family. Eric is killed by an exploding gas station, presumably caused by a stray bullet. In reality, 33 to 50% of all people killed by police are disabled, like our main character. Out of the 700 people killed by Philadelphia police this year alone, that's 231 to 450 individuals. None of them were harboring potentially deadly alien life forms on their person. And what is most astonishing to consider here is the fact that the original cut of Mac and Me's climax ends with Eric getting shot point blank in the chest by a policeman trying to stop him from approaching the aliens. In reality, no civilization on Earth would allow extraterrestrials to simply assimilate into the working class of society. Aliens are exploited for nationalistic advantages. The value of Mac and Me is the fact that you can't make a movie review about it without mentioning corporate branding. It's another reminder that your attention is and has always been commodified by corporations who are trying to sell you things. The themes of the film don't matter as long as they line up with something recognizably empathetic, like a goat in the water.
Goat in the water!
Or a reasonably ugly bipedal baby from another world seeking safe passage back to its family through a harsh land that is actively trying to kill it. The final step in reviewing Mac and Me is to realize that you get nothing out of watching Mac and Me except the certainty of corporate brands. Coke, McDonald's, Skittles. You can't get anything out of watching Mac and Me except the momentary levity of a heartfelt laugh. Whether you're disappointed about the fact that you wasted an hour and a half of your life watching this film, or disappointed about the fact that the mysterious alien family never did come back, it only strengthens the subconscious yearning for the surefire comfort only a cheeseburger and some soda can provide. And while you're busy deciding if the movie is entertaining you or repulsing you, the continuous display of brands begins to take place as truth. I believe that Mac and Me is a classic case of the producer's 1967. It's a goat-in-the-water film, and I believe it was purposefully made to be a terrible movie. It was meant to bomb, and the only reason it was allowed to bomb was the promise of a long-standing impact. In this case, the psychological connection and reinforcement of Coca-Cola, McDonald's, and Mac and Me. We've all been duped. The forced nature of everything that props this film up collapses in on itself. The quality of the writing, the acting, the aliens is so unequivocally bad that I believe it deserves to be considered as one of the greatest movies of all time, up there with other hallowed films like Troll 2 and The Room. Mac and Me is objectively so bad that even if every single detail in the film was carefully calculated and considered, its existence still feels almost accidental because of how ridiculous it is. And even if Mac and Me was the most painfully articulated production ever made, that would only make it so much more ridiculous. I do believe that maybe Stuart Raffle, the writer and director of Mac and Me, didn't approach McDonald's with a script, but rather McDonald's approached him with a long-winded advertising opportunity. Whether or not we all truly have been duped and this film was made to flop is a somewhat silly question, and either way it doesn't actually matter. Mac and Me is good because the thing it is ripping off is good. Its badness comes from its effort to distinguish itself as something other than what it is, a plagiarism of E.T. intended to drive up brand recognition. I think its value arises independently of any individual effort involved in the creation of this movie. It stands on the shoulders of nothing and no one except itself. When you think about Mac and Me, you don't see the writer, the director, the actors, the aliens. You see yourself questioning, what in the world did I just watch? You don't ask, who wrote that? You ask, who let this happen? The chokehold of corporate branding almost forces anonymity onto everyone who helped bring Mac and Me to life. I want you to consider the actors and correctly name one off the top of your head. If you get it right, I'll buy you a cheeseburger. I think its value arises from its tendency to mirror elements both within and outside of itself. When you stare too long at Mac and Me, you begin to see reflections and metaphors that may not have even been there in its conception. Take Eric and Mac, for example, both strangers in new lands, considered by some to be atrocious for their very nature. A clear commentary on how society views disabled people. Jade Calegory, the actor who played the main character Eric, did some disability awareness campaigning in the 80s. There's an interview where the host asks Jade some pretty outrageous and almost demeaning questions about himself and his disability.
Do you ever feel sorry for yourself?
The interview feels very uncomfortable, and you have to wonder why the 12-year-old kid stopped doing movies after Mac and Me. The plots of advertising campaigns today are just as ridiculous as the plot of Mac and Me, but now they are condensed into 15-second spots on the margins of your perception. Mac and Me is bad. It's good. It's everything. It's nothing. It's just an E.T. ripoff. It's exceptional. Finally, you'll want to wrap up your video with some kind of takeaway about Mac and Me, and a generic send-off and thank you. In this video, we're going to say that to learn from Mac and Me is to learn about yourself. Dissecting this movie with no holds is a challenge, but I recommend watching it a few times and then projecting nonsense back onto its nonsense. But what do you think? Is there some cryptic metaphor hiding in the dead alien caves of the MNMCU, the Mac and Me cinematic universe? Some galaxy brain insight into the modern culture of media and streaming? A commentary on ableism and police violence? Or is everything I've said in this movie hogwash? Let me know, leave a comment. I'll leave links in the description below to things I've talked about here, the original ending of Mac and Me, the Jade Calegory interview, and a link to the full movie in case you've watched this entire video and haven't actually watched Mac and Me yet. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe so I know if I should spend another week of my life in deep thought trying to squeeze meaning out of something meaningless, like an E.T. ripoff / fast food commercial family feature film. And one more thing before you leave. Just remember, no matter where you go, there you are.